Hey everyone, welcome to the Above the Yellow Line live stream. Another Thursday night chilling with the ATYL crew. We have a special guest with us tonight, from Dom's abode. We got Matt Deason. Hi Matt.
Hello. How are you guys?
Doing just great. Doing just great.
Me too.
And then of course, Dom and Dom and Ben joining us again. Rob will be joining us in a little bit. So we'll have him in when he is ready. But good to see everybody as they roll in. So cool. I guess we should start off by just saying we're gonna talk about Richmond. So we're gonna talk about it. We'll
Wasn't controversial at all, was it?
yeah, not controversial at all. Not at all. But we'll talk about it. I mean, Xfinity and Cup, as well as talking about some NASCAR news, some things that have come out this week, as well as previewing Martinsville. It's a full weekend of racing. So if you have any other talking points that you want us specifically to cover as we go through the show, leave them in the comments and we'll get to them. But let's start off at least by talking about our point situation following Richmond, just to get that out of the way before we talk about all the juicy stuff. I have 3 race wins in a row, I think, which is crazy.
Rigged.
So doing great. So yeah, everyone else is pretty behind on points. The championship is mine. I've got it.
I was like, last week, I was like, okay, it's not that bad. I can dig out of this hole. And it's just now the hole is getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to sweat a little bit.
I was going to say, I think this is the worst that you've done.
Yeah, it could be worse.
I mean, it could be worse. And then Ben, you're still, I think Ben to Adam, is still achievable. Like you guys, you're still doing good. I think so.
I'm sure. I literally just, if it's every week I pick at least Tyler Reddick in my top 5, so I qualify that as a win.
Oh yeah, that's a win.
It's rigged. It's all rigged. They were right.
It's rigged.
Something. It's rigged. It's all rigged. So
listen, the points reset for the playoffs, so I'm just counting the days.
That's fair. That's fine. Where are we going? Oh, Toby Christie. Toby, hi.
Hey.
Hey,
What's going on, guys?
Boss is here. We got to act professional now.
Yeah, let's take it up a notch here. Jeez.
We were just going over the points. Toby got a late start to our whole point situation standing, so 105 lead, but that's okay.
I'll take it. Honestly, that's not bad. I'll go with it. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Keep that basement warm for me because I'll be there soon.
Oh, Ben. Sad, but that's the point situation. I'll show you the driver's points that we have here. Let's make the screen bigger. There we go. So Denny Hamlin wins this weekend. Another short track win for him this season. So it mixes up the point standings just a little bit. Of course, it could have been Martin Truex Jr.'s win yet again. So Ben, I am so sorry. Let's talk about it. Let's just get into it. We'll start off with the Cup Series and we'll move our way to the Xfinity Series. But the big talk, besides the wet weather tires and things, was this restart. So does anybody want to just share their opinion? Right off the bat?
I think the in-house Truex fan should go first.
Yeah. Ben?
Throwing into the bus.
Hi, Rob.
I sat up all night for disappointment once again, which is just the status quo for my life.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we can all figure what I have to say on this, and I feel like his anger was reasonable in the moment. Disappointing. I think I'm more just disappointed with the fact that they fully kind of admitted fault, and then we're just like, yeah, it's over. Which is just, it's not like I'm mad. I'm just genuinely disappointed that the sporting body can't, I don't know, hold themselves accountable. I don't know. That maybe isn't the right word at the end of the day. Just disappointed. Really disappointed in it all.
And what threw me off about this to begin with was when Elton Sawyer was like, this could have been a different call if it was 50 laps in, 100 laps in, but it was the final few laps. So that's what threw me off. I know he clarified his thoughts later on, but that's where I was like, ooh, okay. I know we missed some calls. We're not going to get them right all the time, but I don't know. Anyone else have thoughts, opinions? The resident Toyota fans in the house want to say anything?
All right. Well, if you're going to call me out, I'll go ahead and go. No, it's so tough because, I mean, the black and white of it is Denny Hamlin jumped the restart. But Denny made a good point in his podcast in that he the last thing he does is look for where the restart zone is. He doesn't care about that. He's looking at the guy next to him and the guy behind him to see if they're trying to get any sort of advantage on him. And as soon as he saw Truex lay back, he jumped. So he just didn't want Truex to get any sort of advantage out of him. I mean, Martin gave him a shot going into 1 and 2. He was right there, and Denny, I would say, muscled him out of the way, which for teammates can be very troublesome going down the line, especially. But yeah, it's just so tough. I get everyone's frustration with it, but we move on. We're already packing up and going to Martinsville, so
yeah, it's like regardless, we're moving on, and Toby probably can speak to this too. I mean, we had the NASCAR Productions media availability with Josh Berry and Ryan Preece, and they spoke about this heavily, where it's like, you're kind of at the hands of the guys that are behind you if you're starting on the front row. And I mean, they spoke about that pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. Going back to the Denny Hamlin thing, where he says the last thing he does is look at where the restart zone is. I think that's problem number one, especially when the rule book says if you don't fire off in that zone, it's illegal. I think you should be paying attention to where the damn restart zone is. And I think NASCAR should be paying attention to where the restart zone is. I think we get into these situations here where, sure, it didn't, these guys are all doing it and everybody has this gentleman's agreement of, hey, I see somebody rolling up, I'm just going to gun it. That's great, but the rule book doesn't say that's cool. So we either need to change the rule book or we need to figure out something else, because it's a big mess. And now we've got fans that are going, oh, well, that's not right. That guy jumped it and we let it go. We're sitting there penalizing people at COTA last week. The race is over. And we're going to take a guy from second place and put him back to 27th 10 minutes after the race is over. Why the hell aren't we doing it this week for a guy that jumped the restart? Clearly jumped the restart. Whether somebody was rolling up on him on the outside or not, call the damn penalty. That's what you're there to do. I understand you can't do it in the moment. It's a really fast situation. We've got 2 laps rolling out there with 20, 30-second laps. I get it. So you don't make the call before the race is over. Why can't you make the call 10 minutes after the race is done? And then we can alter whoever wins, or we can go, you know what, we messed up. Or we don't think the rule should be written that way, and maybe we won't enforce it that way going forward. But the rule is the rule. And by rule, that should not have been a win. And I think it's probably happened multiple times in the past. We haven't heard anybody call it out. But when a person who was running for the win with him in the closing laps calls on his radio and says he went early, and after the race again says he jumped the start, at that point, even if you weren't going to review it, now you have to review it, which it seems like they didn't in the time. And I disagree with the way the whole thing went with all that, just myself. So.
And even to like Joey Logano on Sirius XM, he was like, I'm going to be really pissed if I get called for it next week if I were to do that. Because it messes with the precedent, So
for sure. Well, then you go back to what they were saying at NASCAR Productions with Ryan Preece and those guys. Ryan Preece is like, well, I don't want judgment calls to be part of it. Well, that's what we saw on Sunday is a judgment call. The rule is that's a penalty. When you don't call the penalty and you say, oh, we think it was a good restart, that's when you bring judgment into it. Mm-hmm. So now your black and white rule is no longer black and white. And I have a cat here, so that's good. But that's the thing. Great so rules. Like I don't like this whole picking and choosing when you want to call something and all that. It's the rule is what the rule is, and if you don't like how the rule is, if you're NASCAR or the competitors, somebody needs to change it. Until it's changed, you got to call the rule the way the rule is.
And Matt, I know when we were talking about having you on the show, you said you wanted to voice your opinion on this. I don't know if you had a different opinion on it, or if it was just like you just need to let out the opinion. If you're mad, sad.
I don't know. I'm over it now. I mean, I'm a Hamlin fan myself, and I just don't like how NASCAR called it. But I think it was 2013 when Carl Edwards jumped that restart. I think it was 80 something laps to go.
2012.
2012.
The same thing.
Yeah, the exact same thing.
Yeah,
they called him on it.
And they did call him on it, but he went so much earlier. I mean, still a rule is a rule, but he went so much earlier than Hamlin went. But I don't know. Like Dom said, if he's not looking, would you say he's not looking?
The one thing he should be looking for, which is the restart zone, he's not looking for.
Yeah,
he's waiting on other drivers' reactions to judge his restart.
Yeah,
which is, to Toby's point, that's not how it should be.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He's banking on a judgment call.
Yeah,
is what it is.
And he also like shouldn't be releasing that info because you know how many games drivers are going to play with him now
Oh yeah.
because they know that's what he's doing.
For sure.
They're going to
And
make
that
him jump
opens-
every restart.
Yeah, well, and it opens another can of worms too, because you're not supposed to be laying back on these restarts either. That's another thing that NASCAR is supposed to be policing, and it brings into another thing where it seems like this is a very prevalent thing. Ryan Priest said that this is something that's happening more this year than they've seen in previous years, where guys are laying back. So it seems like things are getting a little lax up in the booth, and we're not calling things that are happening, and it's leading to other things that are now happening. And we might want to put an end to it before it gets crazier. But yeah, I don't. The whole situation, I just, and the whole excuse of we couldn't get it in time,
No.
just doesn't hold water to me. We've called people from going below the yellow line after a race is over. We've done all sorts of different things, cutting track course and all that stuff.
Yeah.
We've done so many different penalties after a race is over. A guy gets DQ'd. That's an hour and a half after the race, and we take the spot away. So why can we not penalize a guy who illegally restarted 10 minutes after the race is over when the video is very clear that the guy did go before the restart zone, although close? He did obviously go before the restart zone happened. Just penalize him. That's it. And then we're done with it. We don't have to worry about this whole, oh my, NASCAR is showing favoritism to those cheating Yoders and all this other stuff. Just call the damn penalty and we'll be done with it. And we're done with it. We don't have any other people digesting stuff because at the end of the day, you fall back on the rule says this. We had to rule it. That's it. Done. So.
And the comment I thought was funny too from Barry and Priest was like, if it was any other driver, I think they probably would have called it. You know, you want to talk favoritism, but that's also just
and then Barry also said like if it was any other driver, most of the fans wouldn't even care. So that was the other thing. And to his point, he's probably right. So a lot of people don't like Denny Hamlin, but you know, again, the competitor he was going against on that restart called it, and you know, issued pretty much a review. So at that point, it should have been reviewed and it should have been ultimately penalized.
This brings up a question though. Should like we introduce challenges? Can like teams challenging stuff?
Same thing then.
Like this is a thing right now in hockey where they talk about like the offside rule, and I'm going to get into some nerd stuff. Like they have like if a goal gets called, you can throw like essentially throw your towel out and say I want to call that, I want to challenge that ruling, and then it can go on for an hour or so debating at this point. It feels like, but should we introduce something where Truex throws the blue flag and says, I'm challenging this call? Like, is that the thing that we should start talking about and introducing? Or,
you know, I actually like it being a flag because he could throw it on the track to cause the caution to make them have to review it. I love it. Yes.
Toby, the last thing we need is more caution laps.
I don't know, man. Sometimes.
So, I mean,
so real quick, if NASCAR did penalize Denny, would they put him to the back of the lead lap, I assume?
Well,
right?
if you penalize him after, that's all you can really do. You can't, you can't really.
It's like a yellow line rule.
That penalty.
Yeah.
But even then, like, what I would be even more upset about as a Truex fan, if they did give the penalty to Denny, Joey would have been the winner. Martin still wouldn't have won.
Yeah.
As a Truex fan, at that point, like I didn't care. I was just like, if we're served. I call the rules the rules. Like we have a rule book. Again, like Toby said, we have a damn rule book for a damn reason at the end of the night. And we're not even like, we're not going to use it. Like it's, what's the point of this then? You made me like, even if I wasn't Truex fan, you made me waste my entire night for you all just whiffing a call.
Well, and if you don't want to call it that way, that's fine, but you need to change the rule. That's all there is to it. Like if that's fine. Everybody seems fine with it as far as drivers go. But if you want it to make sense for everyone, and we don't want this whole thing where we're dragging it out for a whole week after the race talking about it, change your damn rule and we can move on.
And you know how fate works in NASCAR. Something's going to happen in Martinsville.
Obviously.
That is going to force their hand.
If I'm leading the race late, I dare them to penalize me. I go as early as you can go. And then I start crying foul as soon as they flag me. Seriously.
What do we think about the Kyle Busch caution?
Oh no.
The caution, huh?
That sums it up.
That's
the thought there.
So, and I can see how they thought something was happening because he did shoot up there really fast. So, and it's hard in those kind of situations, real time. And I'm already being very critical with the restart ruling. But man, we've seen a few of these kind of cautions the last few years. I know there was one at Dover, I think, last year, the year before with Brandon Jones. Literally, like, I mean, he saved, like, he didn't even spin. Like, I don't know what they were doing. You see, like, a guy kick sideways and you freak out and throw the caution. And it wouldn't be so bad, but that altered the entire outcome of how that race played out. There were a lot of guys that had their races end because of that call.
Yeah, that's why that caution frustrated me so much, is because what makes Richmond so interesting is the strategy. And of course, we had the wet weather tires that produced really great racing for those first 30 laps or plus 30 laps, because we ran 13 plus laps under caution. But when we had that caution for Kyle Busch, I was like, well, shoot, we're just going to, I guess, ride it out until the end of the race. And it is what it is. So
I wish we could have had that sort of reaction time in the 500.
Man, yikes!
Or that kind of reaction time in reviewing the restart.
Wait! Was that Hendrick car leading? Was it Hendrick car leading? If the Hendrick car wasn't leading, then they wouldn't have done it.
You have a point.
Wow.
Bold.
Can I say one more thing on the Hamlin stuff?
No, I'm just messing.
Yeah.
Around.
I'm not a fan of him right now. His Twitter stuff is kind of like pissing me off, if I'm honest about it. It's very arrogant, and I'm not.
I think he's genius with his Twitter game, because he knows he's the villain.
Yeah, he's playing into the role, but it's like a little much right now.
He's doing great though. Like he's you can say what you want to say about him, but he's got the Twitter thing figured out, where he understands how to play this, where people hate him, and is getting some really good engagement. And his home track, that photo of him being defaced all weekend long, and they'd clean it off, and it would get defaced again. And they'd clean it off, and again and again and again. So it was just great. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't it's great engagement stuff. I just don't like some of the stuff he is saying is just like, okay, dude. The second he tweeted out about how he was saying our team won the race because of our pit crew, not the restart. Y'all just sour, get over it. And it's like, okay, like you're how far removed now from this day, and we're like,
if you're gonna say that, say that in the post-race press conference. If you're gonna say it,
And someone responded to it. Someone responded to that tweet and was just like,
"Oh yeah,
you jumped the restart." And he's good. He's like, "And your point?" Question mark.
I mean, to be fair, his pit crew is one of the best. I mean, Chris Gabehart, his crew chief, one of the best. And I mean, they did get him that stop to get that first position. And again, goes back to the point of you have the guys behind you that are trying to lay back a little bit. You want to make sure that you keep the spot that you earned on pit road. So it creates this whole back and forth thing. But we'll end it there. We'll move on to Martinsville. Knowing how things happen, we'll probably have to talk about it again after Martinsville. Fingers crossed we won't. But there's another incident.
If I were leading, we would.
Richmond. Yeah, we would. We would.
Battle scars from 2012 are showing.
God. Let's talk about
you probably hate
Joey
that day as a
Gase.
Jimmy Johnson fan.
And that whole incident with Joey Gase and Dawson Cram. Tom, myself, and Toby, we were at the track, so we saw this all unfold as it happened, and it was just spectacular. But essentially, Dawson Cram, I guess, politely made contact with Joey Gase. Joey Gase, his car got junked, ripped the bumper off, and
politely.
chucked it. Yeah, politely, just saying this politely, and then he chucked the bumper at Dawson Cram's windshield. Toby, you were there for the whole after race conversation thing of trying to get a hold of these drivers, and talk about that.
Yeah, so that was fun. The whole thing was trying to get anybody of any substance in the scrum there to talk about anything. So we go straight to Dawson Cram afterwards, because we've kind of heard from Joey Gase from the Infield Care Center. You were down there for that. And so we're all kind of waiting out over at but Dawson Cram's car after the race on pit road. And he's kind of hiding over on the other side of the car, not really wanting to engage with it. And we all kind of waited out for, a good 30 minutes or so. And then finally we're like, hey, are you doing it? No, I can't right now. But later. We're like, okay, well, later, what does that mean? So it was one of those things where, okay, well, let's just go to the garage and see what happens. We'll wait it out. And as you get to the garage, Joey Gase is still there. It's been a while since he was crashed, and he's still there, hanging out on the back of his hauler, staring down the number 4 JD Motorsports hauler, just waiting for Dawson to show back up, which took a long time. And it looked like maybe he was going to avoid and skip out and not head back there, but he did head back there. And when he did, it was interesting. So they had a talk. It wasn't like there weren't fists flying and stuff like that. There were a lot of F-bombs, obscenities, stuff like that. But it was pretty controlled, I would say. Dawson had the initial talk with Joey. They didn't agree. Dawson spoke with some people at JD Motorsports. They told him to go back over and apologize a little better than he did the first time, and then he apologized further. And then we finally had a chance to talk to Dawson and stuff like that. So it was interesting, but it took a while to get him back there. Was the funny part. It just seemed like he was really trying to avoid anything involving having to talk about it.
I mean, and from this came T-shirts from both parties involved, and of course, Joey Gase fined $5,000 for his actions on track. So, and of course, he talked about how this put him in a frustrating or a difficult, I should say, financial situation with his cars going into Martinsville and everything like that. So, I don't know. Anyone else? Those of you who were at home, or even to like Dom, if you wanted to speak on this too. Anyone else have?
I think the best part about that was not like I get thrown a helmet, throwing Hans.
Oh yeah.
Throwing gloves. Or like, yeah, just a detached part. He tore the bumper off of his car to throw it. It wasn't detached. He tore it off.
Well,
and that was the best part about it.
And I don't think he's getting enough credit for how good of a throw it was, because usually he's throwing helmets, like you said, and those are ball-shaped objects, so it makes sense to throw that. He took essentially this piece of paper, threw it. It should have caught in the air and like not hit the car. It should have flew off and done something weird.
Perfect
but
throw.
Somehow he perfectly hit Dawson Cram. So really incredible throw.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I mean, on a positive note, this weekend Xfinity had a few debuts. Bubba Pollard was one of the debuts, and he did really, really well. One of the short track guys. So good storylines there for sure.
That was a great run for Bubba.
Do good. Yeah.
Yeah, between Bubba Pollard, Taylor Gray, and Logan Bearden, they all had pretty good debuts. Yeah. I mean, even got stage points there, and I know he had to spin at one point, but rallied back, and I mean, they were all. I feel like that was one of the most solid debut races for an entire group of debut folks that we've seen in a long time. It was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down, agree.
I had a feeling too after qualifying that Bubba was still going to find a way up to at least the top 10, because I saw his practice laps and he looked really good then. I didn't see qualifying. I just figured he must have had a mishap on his lap.
He was the first guy out, so it's a hard thing when the first guy out got really loose.
For
and
sure.
That was it.
Yeah.
Great run for him, and proven what kind of speed Junior Motorsports has.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now the question is, do we see him again? Because
I'd love
it's
to.
a hell of a performance. If they didn't have Carson Quapple in the 88 this week, I think they'd be like, hey, run it back. But I don't know. I feel like that's too good of a run in his debut to not bring him back for another go at it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I'd definitely like to see him back in that car at some point this year. I know he said that he was interested in another opportunity, so it's a matter of if it could get put together, that'd be awesome. But let's end our Richmond discussion there. Let's move on to talk about some NASCAR news. I know it's been a lighter news week, but there were some conversations that came up in the NASCAR Productions press availability. Brad Keselowski had some interesting things to say regarding, expanding RFK even to practice and the charter situation, things like that. But other news to talk about is Austin Dillon. He did have a crew chief change. Justin Alexander is coming back. He worked with Austin Dillon before. All 4 of Austin Dillon's wins came with Justin Alexander. We know their performance has not been where it should be the past few years, especially this year. It's just not been there at all. So, I mean, we can talk about how big of a change this is for Austin Dillon. And do we think that this probably won't change things overnight, but how much do we think this is actually going to help?
I don't think it can hurt.
It's like the reverse of a bad relationship. Like you're getting back together with the person that was the best to you in this time in your life. And obviously best is a loosely used word, but I mean, they've won races together, and then the other guys he hasn't won races with. So I would say this is a good step in the right direction, or at least a step in a direction that's not running 35th every week and ripping your crew chief on the radio post race. So.
Well, that's the thing, too. And he was even ripping him during the race, too. It seemed like he's very not happy with the way the strategy calls have been made by Keith Rodden over the last, I guess, 36 races last year, 7 races this year, but definitely the 7 races this year. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that he's typically a fringe playoff contender year in and year out. In the last 2 years, he's 29th in points last year, and this year, 28th. I mean, it just something was missing there, so something had to change. We'll see if they return back to the old guard there at the crew chief spot helps.
I agree. Let's see. Let's talk about the Brad Keselowski stuff. He had a great press conference with the NASCAR Productions. He had a lot of great insight. I think too, even like Josh Berry and Ryan Preece did too. One of the things that Brad talked about was something that piqued my interest, and I know Toby, you wrote about it with Racing America, but was the idea that Keselowski said, cutting practice has not cut costs for them. They've had to reallocate, kind of the things that they're missing with like more sim time and reallocating those funds somewhere else that they cut. I know it brings back to the old discussion of, do we need to have more practice, et cetera? But I wanted to ask you all, like, what's your ideal NASCAR race weekend look like? Like, is it the same practice that we used to have? Is it an in-between? What do you guys all want to see when your ideal NASCAR race weekend? Changing the question a little bit as opposed
I'm gonna let somebody else go first. I'll give you mine taking a bit.
John, you had the biggest smile. You go first.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I grew up on each series having at least 2 sessions, and I'm not a fan of. I still really don't understand why we split the field in half for practice. I don't know why we can't just have a full hour session and just let whoever wants to go on the track go out on the track.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure there's some pros and cons to it. But I grew up on a opening practice and a final practice, and then qualifying, and then the race for each series. So that's my ideal. And then, I could get into speed weeks, but I'm just not even going to do it.
Speed week?
Speed days.
Speed days.
Yeah,
I just want an hour of practice, single car qualifying, maybe do that on Saturday, and then run the race Sunday. And that's it.
My big thing is it feels like everything is being forced and rushed within a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it's happening right before races now. So like Xfinity and trucks, it's all just a big time cluster of what's happening there. Plus you've got qualifying for Cup during all that usually. So it's literally like Cup practice qualifying, right into Xfinity qualifying, right into truck qualifying. And here's the races now all of a sudden. And there's no real time to build anything. And then by the time you're done with those feeder races, the Xfinity and truck race the day before, you're burned out and you don't even want to talk about what's happening for Cup until it's like race time. So I feel like if they stretch things out a little more, like obviously you're trying to save on travel costs for some of these teams and stuff like that. I still feel like practice and qualifying should be the day before each race because it gives you time to at least build those storylines on who looks like this person is the favorite to win this race, and kind of tell a few more of those stories and try to at least predict and shoot the crap about who might win one of these things. But you don't have time to do that right now. It's just kind of, I think, killing the overall vibe going into the race at least.
I agree. Rob, do you have the same thoughts or?
More or less, yeah.
More or less, yeah. Ben, kind of.
I think about this a lot, and for some reason it just kind of stays in my mind. I think a lot about the, and I feel like I reference this every show now, the Dinner with Racers episode with Mark Martin, where he talks about he loved winning races and getting trophies, but his favorite part of the weekend was when he would take a car and put it on top of the pylon at practice, and how that meant so much more to him that he could go out in an hour and a half session or however long back in the day and show hey, I'm whipping their asses right now in practice.
Mm-hmm.
This is killer.
Yeah.
My ideal weekend would be kind of the same, Matt said, an hour of practice, single car qualifying, no goofy group stuff.
Yeah.
And we have a race. That's just it. And maybe, 3 days for Cup. So 1 day is just only practice, 1 day is just only qualifying, 1 day is only race. 2 days for Xfinity. I feel like trucks could squeeze it down into a day show, the way the series is kind of heading in that direction already. That's just my kind of ideal of it. Or we have a 3-hour long practice session with all cars on the track at all times, all truck with Xfinity and Cup at all times on track.
Oh,
Why not?
No.
No.
If we're going full chaos, I'm all about it, man.
You're playing with fire.
The importance of having that span of about a minute to talk about just one driver and one team is so important.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how much you lose that until you really think about it. There are times where I'll watch a race now and really I'd say for almost the past decade, ever since, the past decade, because they introduced group qualifying in 2014. There are races I'll watch where I didn't know that guy was racing this weekend, or I didn't know.
Totally agree.
I didn't know, like, I'm trying to think of, I didn't know who was in the 15 this weekend. I didn't know who was in. It was more so when we had more field fillers. But it was nice that those guys got their own moments. I also miss when they were mixed in with the top guys. So you'd have Jeff Gordon go out, and after that you'd have, front row motorsports go out with whoever they had, Kevin LePage or whoever
John
was going to
Andretti.
drive that. John Andretti, whoever was driving that car. Like, I liked that whole vibe. And of course, 90% of this is nostalgia and personal nostalgia. But I also do think it's very important to give those teams the attention that you're more likely than not going to give them on Sunday.
And to add on to that, Rob, because I agree with you on that, another thing that we do miss out on without that extended session where guys have to go back to the garage and not just sit on the pit stall before they go back on track is for people who watch the sport, not for the drivers, but for the cars. I'm sure they want to see those guys in the garage stalls with jack stands and they're working on the car itself, like wanting to see, what are they actually tuning on? What are they working on? Stuff like that. It's like little things like that I think are cool. And then that's just more natural sound of what a racetrack sounds like. And you see the driver and crew chief debriefing next to an open hooded race car. So things like that.
I'm on board with getting rid of the weird gimmick as well of these like weird group sessions and stuff like that, because I don't like the multiple rounds and the group stuff, because any format where the guy who sits on the pole may not have the fastest lap that week in the qualifying session, I think that's the stupidest format you could possibly have.
We've had that happen several times where the guy with the track record didn't win.
He'll start fifth today. Let's explain that one to people. Like, that makes no sense. And so I don't like that. I also don't like that you are kind of subjected to whichever group you're in. Oh, that's the fast group because they're the ones on first or second, whichever track you're at that week. And then I also don't like this weird stuff that we're doing now where it's like, okay, well, to offset that, we're going to have it where Group A is the odd numbers and Group B is the even numbers and stuff like that. And now B gets the preference over A, which makes no sense if you're doing it. None of it makes any sense. Let's just stop. We're doing all this stupid stuff. You can't even keep track of it on a spreadsheet if you wanted to.
Is Cup the only one that does that?
Yes. So that's the other thing. We've got different rules for different series and different types of tracks. Because it's all over the damn place. And if you try to explain it to anybody, you can't. It's just stupid.
Because I came home from work one night. This is a couple weeks ago now, about a month. And I texted these guys in the group chat.
I remember.
And I said, I came home from work and I started watching single car Xfinity qualifying. And I can't tell you how healed I feel.
Yes, it is good.
Like, so I was like, this is scratching an itch that I didn't know I had.
It just makes sense.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yep.
And Rob, you've mentioned this too. And I mean, even to call back to, it's so important to give these guys more airtime. They're sponsors as well. In a time where like it's so difficult to get one company to pay for like an entire season or even an entire race, like telling them, hey, you have added value because you'll be on TV much more time during the weekend, or we have the opportunity to, or hey, NASCAR is making a big deal about covering each driver. Like, that's a bigger ROI for these companies that they probably aren't getting right now. So I think of it from the marketing side of things as well.
I remember in 2011 when they switched to where the qualifying order was from slowest to fastest.
Yeah.
Almost every week during qualifying, they would talk about how great it was that we did it in that way, because you'd have these guys that don't run up front, you know, in the top 5 for an extended period of time. And those would be the guys that they were interviewing. And they'd talk about their sponsor. They'd talk about their teams. And if you could go back to something like that, I think that's a great idea. I think they tried to do that at super speedways, but it's like, if you're doing it, you know, 6 times a year out of the 36 races, you know, it's going to get pretty forgotten about.
Yeah. for sure. So I mean,
Bring back
there's
the Busch series.
yes,
Yeah. Well, and at the end of the day, to me, it feels like qualifying, like in a boardroom somewhere, somebody made the overall decision that, oh, nobody cares about qualifying, even though fans still care about qualifying. It just feels like they were so out of touch on it. Like, just make it fit into a TV window. Let's just do whatever we got to do to make it fit. And
yeah.
every time we make a change to it, it just gets more and more complicated. It makes no sense. I just don't. I don't get it. None of it makes any sense.
It's also complicated now. Ben,
I blank on this because I have the brain of a peanut. What is the deal with qualifying and practice when next year or when the new TV deal kicks in?
Okay, so next year you'll have Daytona 500 will be on the practice and qualifying for that will be on Fox still like usual.
Mhm.
And I think there is something else in the second half that'll be on the NBC portion or something. I don't remember exactly what that was, but the rest of them will all be on streaming platforms. So it'll be first half will be on the Amazon Prime stuff, all the practices and qualifying. Second half will be on Max and TNT. I guess it'll also be simulcast on maybe just a streaming service. But either way, it might give them more flexibility, which would be nice.
That's what I'm wondering moving forward.
I also kind of wonder if they're not locked into like having to be on a TV channel. If they can if a storm hits or something, they go, oh, we'll push qualifying to 8 p.m. and whatever. We'll see. I doubt it, but it'd be awesome.
My fear is that they're gonna say, well, it's on a streaming platform. Not as many people are watching it, so let's blow this up even more. That would be my fear about it. I would hope that's not the mentality they go in with.
it can go either way.
But yeah,
Honestly.
that is what my fear would be.
We're introducing jumps and ramps for qualifying only.
We are the Stadium Series trucks now. Robbie Gordon took over. Well, we were
Top
away.
5 in practice pace points.
Yes.
My goodness.
And if you're last,
I
you lose 20 points.
I still stand by the fact that the pole winner should at least get a playoff point.
I feel like we ought to make a big deal about the pole winner regardless. Like
we got to have something for winning the pole.
A playoff point or a point?
Like it used to be a big deal though. It'd be a big check they would hand out. You'd see the guy getting the check. You'd see them getting an award each week, like an actual trophy. Now they've given them some little cheesy flag that they just pass around to whoever. Sometimes it has the race name on it. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it seems like they forgot the flag somewhere in somebody else's office and they had to put one together last second. I saw last year actually they had to print one out on a piece of paper because it seemed like somebody forgot it. If you look back, I don't remember which race it was, but there was a pole award where they did the photos and it was literally a piece of printer paper and you could tell it was not a flag. So
their biggest thing now is that they signed the banner. It's like, well, they've always signed the banner, but this is now the biggest thing.
Right.
I don't understand it. Like as somebody that still gets hyped about qualifying.
Yeah.
And like hyped when their driver wins a pole.
It's an important thing, and for still it's important. And there was a time when qualifying would actually pack stands, and it was just single car qualifying, guys. People like it, especially if you
used to be important.
My all-time
a race ticket, you can go to qualifying and watch your favorite driver turn a lap.
My all-time favorite driver never won a race, but he won a pole.
There you go.
It's thrilling.
So the dual races pay the points, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe they still pay. It's straight points, right? It's not playoff points.
No,
right?
it's just straight stage points. So you get 10 points for winning 9, 8, 7.
Yeah, I agree with Rob. I think that the pole winner should get at least one playoff point.
Yeah. So besides us telling NASCAR that they need to bring the Busch Series back, let's make qualifying great again and bring back.
Oh, hey Taylor, that's an election year. Let's reel it back in. Oh, boy,
you just divided your entire fan base. You're aware of that.
Rob's out. I'm done.
He's like, I'm not going to be part of this.
Right down the middle. Yeah, Rob just
perfectly timed connection issue.
All that to say,
issue.
Joking aside, qualifying I think needs to have added importance again, and I think if we added in that playoff point or something, like Rob, I think that's a great suggestion. I think that'd be cool for NASCAR.
Either that or five playoff or not 5 playoff points, but 5 points, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for the top 5 in qualifying.
I've also got
I think that makes more sense.
Here. I've got a decent compromise here. What if we do the finish line interview at the end of qualifying, and then the victory lane interview in victory lane? so we can
Well,
get
you
rid of
know.
interviewing the driver at the finish line after the race.
What if the pole winner isn't the last guy to go out?
Well, then bring
Then
the
he
car
walks out there anyway.
What if we
Oh,
take
then-
Bikini
then-
Bottom?
no,
and
no,
move
no,
it to
no,
victory
no,
Let him
lap?
do a victory
Then-
lap.
Then we do it on pit road. Like we've been doing it forever, but it's still
Yes.
technically on the front stretch. The fans are right there, and isn't that why they do it?
Well, my
Yeah,
favorite
They
but
don't want the
thing,
Why
fans to
can't they
start
just
yapping.
walk to the wall? Why can't they just walk to the wall and do it?
my favorite thing is that NASCAR literally
Great
just
point.
signed a new victory lane sponsor, Mobile One.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why? Like,
Because
what company
because-
would go?
We'll never
"Ooh."
see it.
No, the reason they had to sign another one is because Ruoff was like, "Why we're getting nothing out of this."
Ex-
Yeah, we're not
Exactly.
even shown anymore on TV. What happened?
Yeah.
Good times.
Anywho, those are our very passionate thoughts about practice and all things in between. Is there any other NASCAR news? Any other motorsports news that we want to discuss before we move on to Dom's projected
Yes.
top 10? Yes.
Stephen Malazzi is running a truck race this week. How cool is that?
Nothing
Yeah.
else matters.
Yeah, I was going to get to that with their Martinsville preview, but we can talk about that now.
Yeah,
like,
let's
isn't
talk
that,
about
isn't
Stephen Malaz.
that freaking cool?
The goat.
Hey,
Go.
the guy just keeps churning out ways to start races. So kudos
Correct
to
me
him.
if I'm wrong. He had the Outback truck last year, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he did. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah. Which, good for him getting Outback on his truck.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I know
He's a
he's getting money from
businessman.
him in two different ways, as a sponsor and as a server.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good for Steve. I'm excited to see him at the track. He's always fun to talk to as well. I love
Yeah.
his energy, you know?
Yeah, he's a good dude for sure.
Yeah. So
Crazy man.
pretty cool. His partner for this weekend is Ozark Rods. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
You're knowing
Stacking
stuff I
pennies.
don't even know, so let's go with it.
Cool.
Sure.
I'm
Sounds
looking at the
great.
car, so I think that's what it is. Yeah. So
Truck, actually.
yeah, sorry, truck. My God, I'm looking at his truck, and that I think that's it. So cool. Yeah, we'll see him this weekend. We'll catch up with him.
I do think it'll be on top of guys running Martinsville. I'm really excited to see how Carson Quapple does for junior
Yeah.
motorsports. I'm very
Yeah.
excited to see how he does, because I mean he's been phenomenal in late models, and I think this is a long overdue first start for him.
Yeah, and even
Yeah.
to looking at trucks, going back to trucks, Cam Waters,
Yeah,
Australian Supercar winner. I mean, that's thrilling as well. I know he did an interview where he was like saying like, I talked to SVG and Brody Kostecki, and like just seeing how that all those folks are kind of coming in and they're trying to get into NASCAR is like really, really cool to see that it has a national appeal to other drivers. It's awesome. So
Yeah, and Cam was actually tied to RFK in a
Right.
off-season rumor from an Australian news outlet. So don't know if that'll eventually come to fruition. We talked about earlier. Brad Keselowski was talking about possible expansion. Obviously, they want to
Right.
acquire a charter before they can do that. But yeah, so that'll be something interesting. Does this turn into something for him later on the Cup side? But Martinsville in the Truck Series is an interesting choice for a supercars guy. But I think honestly, it's not that far off from road course racing. It's just two hairpin turns with straightaways. So
I mean,
Okay.
SVG made his truck debut at IRP.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a
He was a
fever
Cup
dream
winner
of
by
race.
then, but yes.
he was
You're right.
already an established champion.
yeah. So and then David Starr is racing in Cup this weekend in the 66.
Somehow he's always there.
Somehow. I was literally like, how in the world? But all right, I guess it's happening. So
Just when you've reserved yourself to thinking that maybe he's gone forever, he shows back up. So.
he's back.
Hey, if you can ride those coattails, ride those coattails.
I mean,
No,
why
in
not?
all seriousness though, it's good to see him because he's a really happy dude. He's super energetic anytime you see him at the racetrack. Really, really nice guy. And I know he qualified for the Xfinity Open at Daytona and then ended up not qualifying after qualifying inspection knocked him out. So it's kind of cool to see him get a chance to run something else.
Yeah, so that'd be pretty cool. I mean, so those were at least some of the people that we were like, ooh, like maybe have your eye on this weekend doing some one-offs, making their debut. Dom, I'll let you kind of have the floor here. I'll scroll through to make sure that we get to. There we go. All right.
Lovely. All right.
Fine.
Well, here's what we got for the spring race at Martinsville. Again, this is just the spring race stats, not all races at Martinsville combined. It's going to shock a lot of people that no Hendrick driver is projected to win or Denny Hamlin in a Gibbs car is projected to win. It's actually Logano with the best stats. And I'll tell you exactly why, because the man has won pole position for this race 4 times. And that alone is what pushed him to the top. Average start of 7.7. So the stats say he is beyond overdue for a race win. That's why he's up at the top. And then Ryan Blaney has the best average finish in this race at 9.4. 4 top 5s and a top 10. A couple second place finishes are in there.
Before you go any further, that's just only the spring stuff, and you got to factor back to the fall where he went on that crazy run at the end of the race, won the race, and went to the championship 4 because of it.
And arguably had one of the best cars that day too. So what definitely wasn't a fluke victory, man. He was up there all day. So I do think it was very interesting when I finished the stats and they came up as the 1-2, but looking into it, it starts to make sense. Blaney's a great driver at Martinsville Speedway. So expect him and Joey to maybe have a great run this weekend. If Ford can bring a better short track car, we'll see.
And we saw Joey had a great car at Richmond.
Yes.
I mean, that shows that at least they're moving in the right direction. RFK as well had great runs at Richmond as well. So at least they seem to be moving in the right direction short track wise. I know other tracks maybe not so much, but at least that's a positive that we had more 4s in the top 10 this time as opposed to in times past.
Yeah. And I think too, thinking about Martinsville, I was kind of trying to compare it to maybe the Coliseum race. Maybe it runs a little bit like that. And if that's the case, look no further than Denny Hamlin, who's 3rd on our list here, 3rd most likely to win the race. He's won this event 3 times, 08, 2010, 2015. He's led 1,300 laps in this race alone. He's led the most laps in 3 different races. But the reason why he's not number 1, what hurt him is he's got 2 DNFs in this race. I think that was the final decision on why he wasn't number 1 on the list. 4th is Chase Elliott, who, again, super consistent, just like Ryan Blaney, 4 top 5s, 3 top 10s, and he's led 250 laps plus in that 9 car. And knowing what Hendrick Motorsports is celebrating this weekend, I highly expect them to bring their absolute best for this show. So don't put it past Hendrick to absolutely stomp the competition this weekend. 5th on the list is Kyle Busch, 889 laps led. He's led the most laps 3 times. He won in 2016, and he has the most laps completed, 8,489 in the spring race. So he has seen a lot of laps at Martinsville Speedway, even though I know they run 500, 400 each and every time they go there. Kyle Larson is 6th. He's the defending winner of the event. He has 2 top 5s, 53 laps led in the pole in 2017. So again, he admitted it himself last year. Martinsville is not one of his best tracks. But obviously when you go to Hendrick Motorsports, they help you master this track. So definitely expect him to be a contender once again. Brad Keselowski is a 2-time winner, 2017, and absolutely stomped them in 2019. Led over 450 laps in that race alone. He's got a total of 595 laps led in this race, 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s. William Byron won this event in 2022. He's got a top 5 and a top 10 aside from that victory, and 220 plus laps led in that 24 car. Martin Truex Jr. is also a 2-time winner. He went back-to-back in 2020 and 2021. This could be a phenomenal revenge weekend for him if Toyota can keep up the same kind of strength they had at the Coliseum. And the other short tracks of Bristol, Phoenix, and Richmond. Again, I would more so relate to the Coliseum in terms of how this track runs. And then lastly, Chase Briscoe. What really helps him here is he's only got 3 starts in the spring race, but in those 3 starts, he's got a top 5 and a top 10, and he's got 109 laps led, no DNFs. So in only 3 starts in the spring, he's been very consistent, very good with his stuff, and I'll let you tell me which Hendrick driver is not on that top 10.
Yikes. Yikes.
WOOF. Woof.
Woof.
You didn't have to go and do that. Man,
Man,
that was rude.
that's brutal.
Wow.
No,
Matt, would you like some aloe for that burn area?
You know what's interesting here is
It doesn't matter if he's on the top 10. Sorry, WrestleMania is this week. I'm really excited.
I love it. I'm all about it.
Is that this week? I don't even know.
He's got to win there more recently than Chase Elliott.
Fair.
Ooh.
Fair. Now, Dom,
So-
there are 3 drivers I'm curious about, and I feel like we ask about them
Yes.
every single week. Ty Gibbs, Chris Buescher, and Josh Berry, based off of his short track performance this year, where do those 3 rank in your stats?
So Josh Berry, I have no Martinsville stats for, so I couldn't rank
Correct.
him.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Ty Gibbs, only 1 start. So again, I would definitely put him in my lineup, my fantasy lineup, because of how good he's been everywhere this year.
Yeah.
But he is 21st on the list. But again, that's only on 1 start. So I wouldn't put that past him. And with Alex Bowman, he's 19th on the list, but the man has won there back in 2021. But he's 19th on the list. And looking at some other possible names, Ryan Preece won the pole last year. He's 11th. And then Bubba Wallace, 12th. Christopher Bell, 13th. Tyler Reddick, 14th. So you've got a cluster of Toyotas there right outside the top 10.
Yeah, a team I'm looking forward to seeing how they do overall. Stewart-Haas Racing. You have Briscoe
Yeah.
on here. You've mentioned some of their guys really close. They led 264 laps in this race last year out of the 500, or is it 400 now? Whatever it is.
400.
They led a lot of laps in this thing.
Yeah.
And you've got a guy like Josh Berry, who you can't even rank because he's never run a cup race at this track, but he's very good at Martinsville, won his first Xfinity Series race here. And then you get Noah Gregson on that team as well, who's very good at Martinsville as well in other series.
First truck win.
Yeah, so I'm very interested to see how things go for that team this week. They've kind of been trending upward. Barry's been running really good at these other short tracks, and this is a short track we've seen him have sustained success in, whether it be late models, whether it be Xfinity. So I'm very interested to see what Stewart-Haas Racing does.
And he's coming off a great run at Richmond, too. So that's got to help
Yeah.
the confidence for that whole 4 team going to Martinsville.
For sure, yeah. And Priest, like, led 135 straight laps last year, but then had the pit road speeding penalty, which kind of ruined his entire day because you can't really pass once you get back there. So if he could get a good starting spot too, that's a guy to look forward to on this one too. But the question is somebody going to actually be able to rough anybody up at this thing, or are we going to see another boring Martinsville race like we've seen with the next gen cars?
I'll mention one more driver. I know when we think about Martinsville, we think about the Hail Melon, Ross
Yeah.
Chastain. He is 20th on my board, and what really hurt him is his best starting position is 27th.
Oh, yeah.
So he is not a good qualifier for the spring
That's not
race,
ideal.
historically speaking. But again, we'll see if that changes. Suarez is 16th, so that's where both Trackhouse guys are.
It's also worth noting, not that these cars translate to Cup cars, but Priest won the modified tour race at Martinsville last year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Stewart-Haas Racing, Toby, I agree with you 100%. That's the team I'm looking towards, like, for this weekend. I don't know if there's going to be a win from that group, but at least see them continuing to, like, move themselves forward. Obviously, they had a little bit of a rough year last year, and we were questioning kind of what they could do this year. And since we've had these kind of short tracks, kind of almost back to back to back, it's shown that they have great speed and great power at these types of things. So I also think, Josh Berry with this, he's showing his strength. And that's something that we've been curious to see is like, okay, how is he going to do in the 4? Even Noah Gregson, this entire season, really, he's had a great year, all things considered. So even to like, I talked with him.
I have to say, this is really weird cutting you off there for a second, but
Yeah.
Noah Gregson, we were like, oh, he's had such a better year than Ryan Preece, right?
But
They
I don't
both
think
had
so.
the 35-point penalty
Yeah.
earlier in the year, and they both had the exact same amount of points this year.
Exactly.
How ridiculous is that? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I guess it's just how it is. I mean, I talked to him after the Richmond race, and because he got a 12th place finish. I was like, that's pretty good, like all things considered. And he was like, I'm still not satisfied. Like we need to do better. Like he was angry at a 12th place, and I'm like, that fire from him to be like, we should have been a top 10 car. Like I love to see that from him. Like he's hungry to get better results, and I think that's great. So
And when you look what he did in Xfinity, I mean, the kid can get it done. So he's chomping at the bit to get to victory lane because he knows he has it in him to do it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Again, bringing up my prediction at the beginning of the season, I think that he either just misses the playoffs or he gets in probably from like a win. At this point, he would have to have a win, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. You can laugh at me later when the playoffs happen, but I don't know. So any closing thoughts before we wrap up ATYL live on this Thursday evening?
No, Kyle Busch, Lucas Oil paint scheme, right? Isn't
Yeah.
he 1-for-1 in that car? Didn't he only run it once last year? Or did he run it multiple times?
I think he ran it multiple times.
Did he? Okay, I was thinking he's 1-for-1.
I think he's ran it. I think he's ran it this year too.
I think he
Has
ran
he?
it this year. I think
Wow. And it shows how much they've shown him on TV, huh?
Yeah, big yikes there.
Poor guy.
Kyle. Gosh, but you never know. I mean, our RCR I feel like has been a little weak this year. I don't know.
I think realistically for this weekend, I think it's going to come down. I know I've got Penske 1-2, which I can only hope that's how it turns out.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
I think it's going to be Gibbs versus Hendrick for the win.
For real. I do. I think I saw a few comments in the chat that were saying it's going to be one of the Hendrick cars. And I'm one who believes, like, obviously you can't script anything, but there's a script in the universe, right? And the script this weekend is playing out for a Hendrick win. So I think if we don't get a Hendrick win, that'll be wild to me. That'll be bizarre. But like Dom said, they're going to bring their best this weekend.
I feel like the script is Martin Truex Jr. leading going into the final restart with Denny Hamlin second. Martin Truex Jr. jumps it and he gets black flagged and then loses his crap completely.
That's one hell
we
of
might see an entire meltdown from Martin Truex Jr. So we'll see how that goes. That is what I want. Ultimate chaos. That's what I want. I want to see that.
Yeah.
Hey, I'd buy tickets to that race.
So they penalize him by the time they get to the back straightaway. So he decides, screw it, I'm gonna go take out Hamlin. So he takes out Hamlin, and guess what? Hendrick finishes 1, 2, 3, 4.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
There's the script.
The script. Everyone buy your Martinsville tickets. If you aren't going, you got to see the script play out. 100% it's going to happen. Totally. For sure.
Make sure to get your playbill on the way in.
From what bare minimum research I've been able to do in the span of about a minute, Busch has ran the Lucas Oil car 3 times, counting this weekend in Martinsville. Okay. He ran it at Auto Club where he won, and then he ran it at Darlington last year in the spring race. And so this will be the 3rd time he's ever ran the Lucas Oil car.
Okay, so he has not run it again this year.
No, this is the first time.
Okay.
Good job, Ben.
All right.
We love it. Ben's always looking up stuff to fact check. I appreciate it.
You are the
Where did you
main
say he finished at Darlington?
What's that?
Where did he finish at Darlington with it?
That I don't know off the top of my head. Let me check.
Didn't he? I feel like he did bad that race, but I could be wrong.
That was the.
That's one of those races where he could have gotten caught up in someone else's stuff too.
That was the Byron race. He came home 7th.
Oh, okay, then never mind.
Started 12th.
That's a good, respectable run.
All right, so if you believe in paint schemes leading to any kind of success, that's not bad.
Yeah, fair. Well, all right, everyone. We will. I guess myself and Toby will see you all at Martinsville if you're in Martinsville. So
hot dogs. Dom, are you going?
I am not. I've got a wedding this weekend and going back to the OH.
Congratulations, you're getting married.
No.
Who schedules a wedding on Martinsville week? Come on.
I know. How inconsiderate.
I'm going to a wedding, and then I'm going to Ohio next week to go see the Buckeyes spring game.
OH.
IO.
Your spring game is next weekend, too? Our spring game is next weekend.
Everybody's is next weekend. Yeah. There's like 90 spring games scheduled next week. It's a good time. It's a nice teaser for the season ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll miss you at Martinsville. But
we'll have some hot dogs for you.
I'll be listening on the ride home for sure.
Yeah. Should be a fun time. So
if the race is boring, I'll throw a hot dog on the track to get a caution.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Yeah. let's
or
hope the race...
pull a David Rudiman and just have someone park on the front stretch.
Oh yeah. If the race gets boring, Toby will take it upon himself to get in one of the cars, drive on track, and just join the race.
No, we don't need to do that. We've got Josh Williams in the race, don't we? We're good.
God dang.
Oh, is he in the 16?
I think so. He'll park it for
us. Great.
Business.
Yeah.
Same spot.
Yes.
Yeah.
God damn.
What are they going to do? Suspend him?
I can't afford to pay it.
Yeah. That'll be cool to see. Hopefully, Josh Williams has had he had a great weekend at Richmond, but
yeah, he's had a rough start to the year. So we'll see if things turn around for him. But
he's got a kid though, and people thought it was fake.
Oh my God, what is with that? People crazy.
Are awful.
Yeah, he faked having a child so he could get out of DNQing at COTA. Sure.
I can't.
Like there wouldn't have to be receipts afterwards. People, like, come on.
Yeah.
I can see it.
I missed this.
You missed it out on a well-deserved.
You
thing to
missed
miss
out on-
Oh,
Th-
it
this
some
was-
good Twitter
This was
drama.
this was Xfinity qualifying at Coda.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yes.
know why I missed it.
Well
I
said.
was in Iowa.
Oh yes. Yes. Oh yeah.
I'll
Shout
do
out to Rob. He's been kicking ass the past few weeks.
He's making
I got
all
to
sorts
see
of
the goat.
graphics and cool photos.
I got to
and
see the
Yeah.
goat play in person.
I'm so jealous of you.
I got to see. Better yet, I got to see our girls contain the goat in person.
Yeah.
Shout out to Holy Cross women's basketball. None of them are watching this, but
Hey, they made the tournament though. That's
Yeah,
huge.
they did. That's
I
big.
can.
And
I
they
can't
went-
say
and
that
they-
about my school. We
a
came
play
close many
in
times.
game. A play-in game win counts as a tournament win, so we did get a
Oh,
tournament
no.
win this year.
That's good.
You made the dance.
There you go. All right, everyone. Well, we're going to call it a night. Of course, for all your NASCAR news, make sure to go to tobychristie.com. Also, check out racingamerica.com for more stories like short track stories, etc. But all your NASCAR content, NASCAR news, etc., race weekend updates, get it there, those places, and of course, abovetheline.com. That's where there's more about us. Your Above the Line hats like Toby's wearing.
Yeah, check that thing
You
out.
can get that on the website. So thanks for repping the merch, Toby.
Absolutely.
And just keeping up with the content that we do. And of course, every single Sunday night or Monday, we have the race recap episodes. We'll do another one from the track this weekend. Toby and I will do that. So be on the lookout for that. And then, of course, all of our social media handles are on the screen. Matt, I will put yours in the description below so everyone knows where to find you. Thanks for joining us, by the way. I appreciate it.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
It was a good time. Well, from all of us here at Above the Line, I can't believe, okay, hold on. I have to point something out first before we go. Nobody is waving an object in front of their camera. Nobody is holding a sign with spiders on it. This is rare and it feels wrong.
He's got it ready to go.
I was gonna do it, but now you.
I don't really.
I was just gonna say
I don't
this
have
feels
anything in my
wrong.
immediate vicinity.
Wow. I was gonna say this is a first where we're gonna have an outro that's not
he
interrupted.
had that, he
Yeah,
had that
Joey-
on
Joey,
hand.
Joey Gates bumper paper.
There we go. That's perfect.
There you go.
Now this is an ATYL live outro. Guys, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us on this Thursday evening and have a good race weekend. Bye.
Keep it crispy.